is up, everybody? All right, I just finished watching the ad for UFC 204, and the main event being Michael Bisping, current UFC middleweight champion, versus Dan Henderson. And this is a rematch from their fight in UFC 100, where Bisping got knocked out very, very badly. Um, it was basically the end of that season of Ultimate Fighter. Team UK versus Team USA, and Team UK won that season, but unfortunately, Michael Bisping was not able to pull away a win at the end of at the end of the season, unlike his team did. Then now Dan Henderson, he's 45. Still going ridiculously strong, surprisingly. Um, unlike with not necessarily Randy Couture. I forget how old he was when he was 40 when he won the light heavyweight title, and didn't hold on to it for very long. Lost it in 2000. Lost it in 2005. Couldn't get it back, and then hung his gloves up for good. Only to come back in 2007 and take the heavyweight title from Tim Sylvia. I forget how old he was. I forget how old he was at the time. Like 41, 42. And so he was probably 45 when he came back. Unlike Dan Henderson, who has been consistently fighting. Dan Henderson should have been had a UFC middleweight title shot. And the fact that he's getting one now that Mike Bisping has it, I'm not 100% sure what they're planning or what they're thinking. Because here's the problem with the both of them. They're both very old. They're both very old. I'm talking about as far as fight years. Because mind you, Michael Bisping was the light heavyweight champion for Cage Rage, right? Which is a regional title, which is stupid. Because just like I said with Butterbean's regional title, that doesn't count towards a world record because anybody from around the world is capable of coming in and fighting him for that title. So he won the Cage Rage title, comes in the UFC, wins the Ultimate Fighter. Then he's been fighting top competition. I mean, seriously, the best of the best for 10 years now. Seriously, he's been fighting since 2006. The fact that they managed to give him it was a very big upset when he beat Anderson Silva, and he did beat Anderson Silva. Yes, Anderson Silva did manage to knock him out. And yes, Anderson Silva did more damage. Here's the problem. That one knockout didn't count because it was at the last second and he was able to recover from it. And two, even though, yes, Anderson Silva did do more damage, he did not hit Michael Bisping enough. He let Michael Bisping tag him up. Michael Bisping put up, basically stacked the points, all the points on the card that he needed to beat Anderson Silva, and good on him. And for him to have beaten Luke Rockhold, even though Luke Rockhold beat him before, for him to come back and win in such devastating fashion, the middleweight title, he absolutely deserved to win the middleweight title. Dan Henderson, his first, first appearance in the UFC. I think his first, I believe his mixed martial arts debut was I forget which UFC, where he won their to which he won their middleweight tournament. And him being a UFC four-man tournament champion. And the four-man tournament winners are the forgotten champions of the UFC. to the point where it's like they don't. It's like UFC doesn't even count them as champions, and it's stupid that they don't do that. But Dan Henderson won the middleweight, won one of the middleweight tournaments. Then he goes off to some other rinky-dink organization just coming up, wins their tournament. That was like 3 or 4 men in one day, something like that. Wins that. Then of course explodes onto Pride. Wins some, loses some, wins some, loses some. Then he wins their welterweight Grand Prix, which was their 185-pound division. Then for him to move up in weight class, because he was constantly going between, like even in UFC, going between middleweight, light heavyweight, middleweight, light heavyweight. So goes up to their middleweight class, which was their 205-pound division, and revenges his loss against Vanderlei Silva. So he was simultaneously, so for winning the welterweight Grand Prix, he was also crowned their welterweight champion. Then he goes and knocks out Vanderlei Silva, taking the middleweight title. So he held both titles simultaneously, only to lose both of them as soon as he showed up into UFC. Lost to Rampage. So Rampage finally got the Pride belt that he always wanted, but could never get because he kept running into that brick wall named Vanderlei Silva. And then, of course, they didn't necessarily do a title unification, but they gave him that's right, they did give him Dan Henderson a title shot against Anderson Silva at the time. And Anderson Silva, of course, his weakness is wrestling. And Anderson Silva, taken down, got beat up a little bit, only to turn it around in the second round, and of course win by submission. He was proficient enough in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu that he didn't really require, takedown defense, and that's the main reason why he lost. That's the main reason why he lost to Cormier, because Cormier kept taking him down but wouldn't let him submit him. That being said, Dan Henderson loses his 2 world titles. Granted, Pride went bankrupt, so it's not like he was the Pride champion anymore. Anyway, for him to knock out Michael Bisping, to be supposed to be given a title shot, for him not to get it, for him to go to Strikeforce, to lose to Jake Shields, and all of a sudden manage to win the vacant Strikeforce light heavyweight title. That threw me for a loop. It's like what happened to King Mo? I wasn't sure, because he didn't beat King Mo for that title. Now, granted, I don't like King Mo, but at the same time, King Mo was a tough dude to really try to put down, and there really wasn't anybody in Strikeforce that could take him. Granted, Dan Henderson had way more experience, and also having knocked out Fedor Emelianenko when he weighs 185 pounds and Fedor is a heavyweight. Seriously, what the hell sense did that make? And even putting them together. Now, granted, his teammate Matt. What the hell's his name? His teammate. I forget his name. His first name is Matt. He is the top. He was the number 185 pounder in the world. Never won a championship. He was the top 185 pounder in the world. Didn't make any sense. He was supposed to be given a shot against Rich Franklin. Didn't happen. Then gets screwed out and washes out of UFC. And of course, he fights Fedor, loses. He also got knocked out by Matt Lindland. Also got knocked out by Vitor Belfort. So, to Dan Henderson's credit, UFC middleweight tournament champion, Pride fighting championship, welterweight Grand Prix champion, Pride fighting championship, welterweight champion, Pride fighting championship, middleweight champion, Strikeforce light heavyweight champion. He's got and he got that other championship to his credit. I forget what it is. All those championships to his credit. Okay, 45 now, and he's saying that this is going to be his last fight. Does he? Can he beat Michael Bisping? Absolutely. Does he deserve to win the UFC championship? Absolutely. Do I care? Does anybody really care? I know there's a lot of guys who hate on Bisping and don't like that he won the belt. Like I said, I'm happy for him because the guy's been fighting. You know, the guy's been fighting since 2006, and for him to finally uh, get a title shot, and then for him to win the championship, good on him. You know, it's great. It's great that that happened to him. At least he has that to his credit. Whether he loses it or not, I really don't care now. He has the UFC title to his credit, just like with Robbie Lawler. I knew he wasn't gonna be. I knew he wasn't gonna get past Tyron Woodley. Okay, and personally, I think he got Carlos Condit got robbed. Robbie Lawler deserved, absolutely deserved to win the welterweight belt. Did I care if he was holding on to it for very long? No, not at all. And it's the same thing with Dan Henderson. Do I really care? Does any should anybody really care? Now, obviously, he cares because he feels like that that championship has been very elusive to him. And like I said, he has a UFC championship. If only Zuffa or whoever the hell owns them now would be smart enough to recognize the winners of the four-man tournament winners as former UFC champions. Sakuraba, Vitor Belfort, Kevin Jackson. Who else? Who else? Who else? Uh, uh, Randy Couture, Dan Henderson, Mark Kerr. All of these guys were UFC champions. That even though they weren't doing the 8-man tournaments, even though it wasn't you know no weight class and no rules, it was still the toughest tournament to get through. And it was through those tournaments they built MMA stars. Like I said, Sakuraba, Randy Couture, Vitor Belfort. All these guys became big. All these guys became big names. All of these guys are legends in the sport. But first they had to go through that, and to basically act like Dan Henderson never won a UFC championship. That's not true. Does he deserve to win? Does he deserve to be UFC middleweight champion? Absolutely. Do I care? No. No, the man's had four. The man has 4 world titles to his credit already. Good on him. Happy for him. If you manage to win this, great, more power to you. But at the same time, you're gonna hang him up. You're gonna hang it up anyway. It doesn't make much sense. Granted, I understand why they did this because Dan Henderson has on more than one occasion earned a title shot and never got it. The only reason why they're doing this is because when Bisping beats Anderson Silva, Chris Weidman falls out. They give the spot to Bisping. Bisping knocks out Luke Rockhold, so they think the best way for them to make money is to put him up against somebody who also knocked him out. Somebody who literally has nothing to lose. And this was basically the perfect timing to try to do something like this, and for Dan Henderson to be hanging it up. Sorry to see him go, man. He's been fighting for a long time, and if he does manage to win, great. I can't think of a better send off. If not, dude, can't take anything away from you anyway. I'm done talking. You guys have a good night.